Hello, my name's Harold Hafton, and welcome to Archaeological Minecraft. I'm a former archaeologist who enjoys playing Minecraft and thought it would be fun to combine the two. In today's episode, I'm celebrating all of you as the channel hit the milestone of 250 subscribers. I'm truly humbled by all of you. The generosity of your time and your kindness and positivity you've shown in your comments. Truly, you're an awesome community, and I'm so thankful you enjoy the videos and the archaeological content. To commemorate this milestone, I thought it might be fun to do a tour of my creative world where I've built a lot of the structures, and I can give you a bit of a behind-the-scenes look and chat a bit about my thoughts on the builds and how I go about making these videos. If you happen to be new to the channel, please feel free to stick around. While I'm making this to celebrate this milestone for my subscribers, this might be a good overview of the types of builds I've created. And then, if any strike your fancy, you can go back and watch that video about that specific historical or archaeological build. Well, this is where it all began, with my first video about the Finniss souterrain. While this might seem like an odd choice for a first video, as it isn't a visually inspiring build, in fact, you might not even see it right behind me, I chose it specifically for that reason. At the point I started this channel, I was completely new to content creation, as well as video recording or video editing. I basically had no idea what I was doing or how to use the tools I now use all the time when making videos today. And even with that knowledge, I barely know what I'm doing today. As such, I chose a souterrain for two reasons. First, because I had a bit of familiarity with them from my work in Ireland, so I had a personal story to tell. But I also chose it because I knew it was a humble build. From a Minecraft perspective, that would let me figure out how to use the tools and work out my video creation process. My strategy was to get better with each video, and even if I only improved 5 to 10% from video to video, it wouldn't be long before I had some idea of what I was doing and would start feeling more comfortable and maybe even get to the point that I was halfway decent. Basically, it was to not let the hunt for perfect be the enemy of good and to allow myself the ability to make mistakes and then learn from them, to follow the principle of growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. Over in this area is what I've come to think of as my Roman district of my world. It contains the Roman road and road station structure, as well as the Roman catacombs. I got super lucky with the Roman road video, because that is what I thought it was going to be originally, is just the Roman roads. But while doing the research, I thought it would be good to expand the topic to road stations as well, and here's the lucky part. I found the perfect article all about an excavation of a Roman road station with excellent graphics of the site that allowed me to add that recreation to the overall build of the video. The catacombs video was pretty tough, not necessarily from a research or writing perspective, but from a filming perspective. It was challenging to create an underground time-lapse where I could fly the replay camera around through the narrow corridors. I wanted the camera work to be as immersive as possible, as if you, the viewer, were down in the catacombs, and so I had to work really hard to avoid the camera clipping through the walls, which would have destroyed that immersion, as the replay mod camera snapped all the solid stone around the build transparent, which would have happened if the camera clipped through the walls. Basically, it would have looked like what happens when you enter spectator mode and then fly through blocks. Speaking of mods, I make heavy use of the replay mod as well as Mapmaker. For some of my builds, I'll create them first in a flat creative world or build them here in this world, save them as a Mapmaker schematic, and then destroy them so I can rebuild them in the video while I film them using the replay mod. Other times, if I have a pretty good idea in my head of how I want it to look or how I plan to construct it, I'll forego using Mapmaker and just build it on the fly while filming it in the replay mod. Flying up to the top of this hill, you can see my build of the Etruscan site of Poggio Civitate. This build was kind of like two builds in one because of its two main occupation phases that I highlighted. I built the first one, and then once I was done, I made a backup of the world so I wouldn't lose the build forever, and then tore it down, and then built the later phase, which you see here. This one was interesting to film because I wanted to capture the fire and destruction from the first phase so it would look a little bit like an action shot where you could see the buildings burning down as the wood of the structures helped spread the fire. The last build in the Roman district is the city block of Pompeii. Making a video on Pompeii was on my list from the beginning, but I purposely waited on it a bit until I knew better what I was doing making videos and had a good methodology down. Basically, I waited until I thought I could be successful, or at least kind of successful, making the video. There's a ton published on Pompeii, so the challenge wasn't finding material, but rather it was for me figuring out what I wanted to cover about the city and what I wanted to focus on for the video. As you know, I ended up landing on recreating an accurately scaled city block in the center of the city. All in all, I think it came out pretty well, and I love the shot from hovering over the city block, being able to look down on all the various shops and apartments. Over here you can also see where I built the public toilets for the video all about ancient and historic bathrooms and toilets. One aspect of my videos which I knew I wanted to do from the start were the maps. I'm a huge geography nut, and I love looking at maps, even going back to when I was a kid. I think understanding geography is a vital piece in understanding the context of history and how things all fit together, and knowing why one thing affects another. As such, I try and ground my builds when I can using a geographical reference. I could much more easily just pop up an overlay map on screen to show the map. But I thought it would be much cooler and much more fun if I was able to recreate maps in Minecraft using the existing gaming mechanics. I think largely speaking, I'm very proud about how accurate these maps have come out, with one exception, and that's the map of Italy. I think, in my opinion, it ended up coming out looking a bit inaccurate and cartoony. It all comes back to what I chose as my source maps, and I happened to choose a map from the 1700s for the Italy map, and thus that's why it looks like it does. Here's how I make these maps. What I do is I find a real map that I like, and then I put that into a photo editing program. I happen to use GIMP. I then adjust the scale to 1 pixel equals 1 block, and so basically the map is 128 pixels wide and tall, and then I place a grid over that map. At that point, it's just a matter of looking at the map, features and coastlines, and replicating what I see from the map over in GIMP over into Minecraft. You can see I put signs in place so that I can visually reference myself in Minecraft, but basically it's just me looking at the one and then seeing the coastline goes, for instance, over 3 blocks, down 1, and then building that in Minecraft until the coastline and borders are all filled in, and then filling in the center of the map with grass or sandstone in the case of my Nabatean map. I use carpet or other blocks or banners to mark locations from the map when I want to call those areas out in the video. Okay, enough about the maps. Let's get on with the tour of the builds. So flying over this way, you can see the build of the Scottish Broch video, as well as the props I built to help explain radiocarbon dating and dendrochronology. You can also see a little place where I've used lime concrete to make a green screen area to capture different screenshots of my character for various thumbnails. You can see past that is the Newgrange build, and then a couple of buildings from my ancient toilets video. The Newgrange build was fun using the shaders and adjusting the placement of the sun to get the shot of the video that replicates what happens in real life, where in the winter solstice, the sun shines down the corridor and lights up the central burial chamber of Newgrange. This area is one where you've seen in my latest video where I built the monastery of Kilmacduagh, and it also contains on its site an Irish round tower. This is the first one I built when I was trying to work out how to make such a narrow Minecraft build look round or circular at its base and not blocky. I really like how it came out. The round tower from the video posted on YouTube is off in the mountains over in that direction. This area down here is where I tested out different dolmen, standing stones, and small Neolithic structures for the scavenger hunt I filmed on ArchaeoSMP. Over towards the coastline is the tower house, which has been featured in a number of my videos and which I also replicated as my main base on the ArchaeoSMP. In this area you can see the Viking Longhouse as well as my Iron Age roundhouse design, and then over in this other area you can see my Cantilever barn build, which I did a short on after a visit to Tennessee where I saw those all over the place, which piqued my interest in the design, and I did a little research about it. This is also where I've built the 2 Irish Ringforts I built in my second video. This is the first time that I had played around with any mods in my video, and so making that video was where I learned how to use the replay mod. I also experimented with trying to use ASCII art in the signs during the chalkboard talk section of the video. I still like the concept, and I think it can be cool, and I like how it worked out here, but because of the gaps between the signs, I don't think it always worked out so well, and this was the case with my turf longhouse from Iceland. Speaking of which, that's right over here in this area. I like the concept of the turf longhouse because at its core, it's a historical dirt house, and dirt houses are often Minecrafters' first structures they whip up in their world to stay safe in the first night, so it's kind of like a posh dirt house. I really like how the interior came out in this build, and how I was able to build the whole thing to its accurate scale in real life. Flying over these mountains, let me talk briefly about the process I use to make these videos. It starts with my ideas list, which I'm always adding to, and many of which have come from your comments. Newgrange was one that I didn't have on my list, but added and did a video about because of one of your comments. And the same was the case with the build guide for the Viking Longhouse. I then do a bunch of research, reading articles and books, which then gets summarized in a script. I organize the script into different scenes and work through how I want to film those and what I want to show in each of the scenes. Once the script is done, I then record myself reading the script and then edit all of the audio. Sometimes I completely finish that before I even start creating the build in Minecraft. Other times, I do the build in Minecraft while I'm writing, researching, or recording the audio. Depending on the needs of the scene, sometimes I'm recording myself while I'm giving a tour, both the audio and the video, and moving the Minecraft guy around. Where other times I'm puppeting the guy in Minecraft while listening to my pre-recorded and edited audio. That's often the case where I'm doing the chalkboard talk scenes where I flip between the first person and third person angle of the same shot. Okay, so here we are in the swamp where I have a couple more builds, namely the Bog Track video and the Crannog video. I really enjoyed putting both of these together because in the Crannog video, I was able to delve not only into just the build from a historically accurately scaled Crannog, but also was able to replicate in Minecraft the process behind how they were built and show that, I think, really well. I also think it's a pretty unique looking build. The Bog Trackways video was also fun, and I really like this prop I used to explain how bogs are formed. I liked it so much that I even cut out a section of the video and just made a short about just that specific part. Further out in this direction is where I have the Viking fortress of Trelleborg. While I fly over there, let me talk briefly about the tools I use to put these videos together. I already mentioned GIMP, which is what I use to make the thumbnails and maps. I've used a couple of different video editing programs. I started using OpenShot when I first started, and then changed over to using KDE and Live, but I'm now using DaVinci Resolve to do my video and audio editing. There are aspects I really like about each one of these and other things I don't. OpenShot is super simple and great at just getting the job done, but struggles with large videos in my experience and tended to crash a lot for me. KDE and Live is nice and has an easy to use feature in the software that lets you measure how long a portion of a specific video is. I found that really helpful when working out how long my various replay mod sections needed to be. I moved over to using DaVinci Resolve because I found it a lot easier to do things like overlaying text and other layers to the video, and it has a ton more features than the other video editing programs do. All of these are open source and free tools, and so I'll put the links into the description. Trelleborg was one of the more challenging and time-intensive videos I did, but in the end, I think it turned out really well. Why it was challenging was really for a couple of reasons. First is I had to create two different designs for longhouses. The longhouses in the center of the fortress are a bit larger than the ones on the outside. This is also the video where I learned how to use the World Edit mod. Putting in the time to learn that tool really helped in the long run, copying all the longhouses. It also helped me be able to create the outer concentric circles of the fortification and where those needed to be laid out. That actually was a bit tricky, and I had to do it a number of times to get it right. Here we are in my creative world, where I do a bunch of my builds on this to better explain this. The thing I didn't factor in was that while the dimensions at the cardinal points allowed the build to be scaled accurately, because Minecraft is a game of blocks and not circles, if you create a circle in Minecraft and then count the blocks running north to south or east to west, and then count the blocks running at the diagonal, so for instance, like northeast to southwest, you get different numbers. And so what was happening is the longhouses were clipping through the outer fortification wall on those diagonal angles. And so I had to constantly be making adjustments during the design in order to square that out. Okay, while we're in this world, let's also take a look at my biggest build, and that's Cahokia. Flying over this way, you can see the extent of this build. In fact, I even had to extend out my draw distance and my vision distance in Minecraft in order to see the build or even take screenshots so that I can see the full extent of what this looked like. With this one, I tried to create each of the mounds and structures of the mounds accurately from a 1 block to 1 meter ratio. I also did that for the overall site as a whole. As such, you can see where the wood henge is located comparative on that site to the outer walls and each of the mounds and how they're oriented and what their distance is from one another. In this video, I heavily made use of World Edit to create the build and each of the mounds, and it still took quite a while. I think this video really shows off the vastness of the Grand Plaza and the monumentality of Monk's Mound and really how truly massive that place is. Well, that wraps up this video. I hope that you liked the tour of my two creative worlds, and I didn't go into every single build or even show you every single creative world I've used to make my builds, but this video is getting pretty long as it is, and I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe I'll do another one of these videos when we cross another milestone, and I'll show you some of those other builds. Like I said at the beginning, I'm totally blown away with all of you and so thankful for all of your thoughts and your comments, and I'm humbled by how many of you have subscribed and liked my videos. I started this channel about a year ago because I wanted to do something archaeological. I used to work full-time as an archaeologist but left the field, and so this kind of lets me keep my toe in the water. And I thought it would be fun and cool to try and build historical and archaeological structures in Minecraft because I enjoyed playing the game. I had no idea if anyone would be interested in watching that, but I figured if I was gonna go ahead and build them, it might be fun to share, and maybe there would be someone out there that would enjoy watching them too. I had no idea how many of you would come to like them. All I can say is thank you, and how awesome each and every one of you are. Thanks, have a good rest of your day, bye for now.